I used to believe the most dangerous part of my life was over, that I'd traded kill zones for cookouts, war zones for Wednesday night reruns. But it turns out the deadliest threat wasn't waiting for me overseas. It was sleeping next to me, with her hand on my chest and a lie in her mouth. My name is Jake Mercer. I'm 41 years old, former Navy SEAL, Tier 1. These days, I manage threat assessment for Black Pine Security Systems out of Arlington. On paper, I'm a regional consultant, walkthroughs, logistics, high-end residential protocols. The kind of job where people call you sir, but forget you used to kill for a living. And that's how I wanted it. Until tonight. I don't know what woke me. A shift in her breathing, a creak in the floorboards. Maybe just instinct. The same twitch that kept me alive in Ramadi and Kandahar. My eyes opened, heart steady. Years of ops taught me never to bolt upright. You wake slow. You listen faster. Alyssa wasn't in bed. That was the first problem. I glanced at the digital clock. 12:47 a.m. Our bedroom door was cracked an inch wider than when she left. Her scent lingered. Jasmine and the faint tang of gun oil. Gun oil? I slid silently out from under the sheets. Bare feet. Controlled steps. I moved low, hugging the corners of the hallway. From downstairs came her voice. Soft, hushed, unfamiliar in its cadence. A voice I'd heard say, "I love you," hundreds of times, now sharpening into something else entirely. "He's still oblivious," she whispered into her phone. "Bring your crew in. Make it look like a botched break-in." The words didn't register at first. I froze mid-step. Every nerve in my body lit up. My throat dried. My training kicked in before the betrayal had time to land. I didn't make a sound. She was setting me up for a hit in my own home. I turned back into the bedroom, my movements now military precise. I reached under the false bottom of my nightstand and retrieved the SIG P32. Zero I kept buried in a lockbox. My thumb pressed the biometric pad. Green light, unlocked. The familiar weight of steel in my hand was both anchor and storm. I slipped into my walk-in closet, peeled back the molding panel, and pulled out a duffel I hadn't touched in 6 years. Inside, 3 loaded mags, a comms earpiece, a low-frequency jamming device, 2 burner phones, and a flash drive labeled Marrakesh. The Marrakesh file. God damn it. I pushed the thought aside. No time for speculation. Tactics first. Emotions later. I activated the signal jammer, 50-yard radius. Anyone trying to ping location data from inside this house was now flying blind. I armed the security grid I'd installed myself, overriding the commercial system with a ghost protocol only I knew existed. Alyssa, if that was even her real name, was still downstairs, talking softly. Stalling them, guiding them, didn't matter. I made rounds of the house like it was Fallujah, moved my caches, changed my fallback angles, cleared the stairwells and blind zones. By the time I hit the safe room panel behind the kitchen pantry, I had full control of the entire ground floor. But something in me broke quietly while I moved. 2 years of birthdays, shared dinners, road trips, inside jokes. The way she laughed when I misquoted movie lines, how she danced while brushing her teeth. All of it, a con, or worse, real, then corrupted. I caught my reflection in the oven glass, not the soft suburban husband, not the guy who barbecued ribs and fixed porch lights. No, what looked back was the old Jake, the one who cleared buildings with nothing but instinct and steel. She picked the wrong ghost to haunt. I opened one of the burners and sent a single encrypted message. Code black. JM status. Red. Need back channel eyes. I didn't expect an immediate response. It had been a long time since I'd reached into the dark like that. But those who owed me knew what those words meant. And if any of them were still breathing, they'd answer. Downstairs, Alyssa lit a candle. Romantic? Hardly. I recognized the tactic. Cover scent. Neutralize trace. She was prepping the scene for blood. I heard her footsteps head back toward the stairs. I slid back into the bedroom and stood behind the door, breathing slow. I kept the pistol high and angled. No fingerprints, no sound. I counted the steps. 12, 11, 10, dash. Then I heard the soft vibration of tires. 3 SUVs turned onto our street. I knew the sound. Military-grade shocks, bullet-resistant glass, low idle hum to reduce acoustic signature. Alyssa paused on the steps. She knew I'd heard. She was stalling for seconds. I whispered to myself, the words like a switch. Game on. And I smiled, because I was ready. And none of them were walking out. I didn't pick this house because of its curb appeal. I picked it because I could defend it blindfolded. The walls are solid core plaster with steel-reinforced studs. Every hallway creates a choke point. Every room has dual exits, one hidden. I installed triple-pane ballistic glass in the front windows and reinforced the back doors with magnetic locking bars tied to an isolated circuit breaker. Even the landscape, hedges, stone paths, privacy fencing, was built to funnel intruders exactly where I want them. So, when the first SUV parked across the street and 4 men dismounted in formation, I was already in position. Crouched low behind the kitchen island with eyes on the entry. I could hear Alyssa pacing slowly at the bottom of the stairs, acting like she couldn't sleep. A performance. She lit that candle to mask the scent of cordite. I hit the kill switch on the main fuse box. Instant blackout. Motion-triggered lanterns blinked to life inside the house, casting shadows where I needed them. On the porch, the lead man tapped the doorframe, looking for traps. He found one. I'd rigged a delay charge above the frame, just a flashbang wired to a paintball CO2 canister and powdered chili extract. Non-lethal, but enough to buy me 5 seconds and a scream. Boom. Screams. I moved, dropped low, crossed the foyer in 2 strides, and swept the first intruder's legs from beneath him. He hit the ground hard, wind gone, goggles fogged. I snapped a zip tie around his wrists, yanked him into the closet, and was back in the shadows before his backup cleared the smoke. 3 left in the first wave. They breached the front with practiced movement. Military, but not SEALs. Too slow, too loud. They had the gear, not the instincts. I took the second at the stairwell. He swept left. I was already to his right. A short jab to the throat with the edge of my palm dropped him gasping. A second blow silenced him. I dragged him behind the couch, stripped his comms, and jammed it. 2 more moved into the hallway, flashlights slicing through the dark. I let them think they were clearing it. I'd already rigged a concussion trap from a fire extinguisher and a trip line across the entry to the den. One went down hard. The other spun toward the sound. I pounced from behind the curtain, drove his head into the window frame, and let him slide boneless to the floor. 3 down. Then I heard it. One whisper, clear in the dead air. Leave the woman. Just kill him. My stomach clenched. Protocol died in that moment. I stopped playing nice. The second SUV must have parked around back. I heard the gate unlatch. The side entry door burst open. More boots, more voices. This time, I didn't wait. I moved through the crawl space and popped up behind the laundry room. From there, I saw 2 intruders sweeping the hallway. Glock 19s, suppressors attached, no visible insignia. Contractors, ghost crew. I lobbed a flash unit down the hall, then followed it, low and fast. One went down to a knee, disoriented. I kicked the other into the pantry wall, grabbed the back of his collar, and slammed his head twice into the drywall. He slumped. The last one tried to run. I let him. Led him right to the garage, the kill box. He opened the door, flashlight out, not knowing the floor sensors were already active. I slammed the door shut behind him, locking us both inside. The garage had no windows, only one exit, and I controlled the oxygen flow. His breath fogged up. I leveled my sidearm. On your knees? He hesitated, then did it. The red glow from the emergency light made his sweat shine like oil. His partner, another straggler, tried to break in behind him. I let him. 2 targets, 1 zone. They looked at each other, then at me. Please, one said, voice cracking. We were just told he had something worth millions. She hired us. We didn't ask questions. She? I said. He nodded. Your wife, blonde, said you'd go down easy. I pulled out my phone, hit record. Say it again. She hired us. She said, you were sitting on encrypted intel, something from Morocco. She wanted it. Told us to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Got it, I said. You're not going to die here, but you're not walking out either. I sedated them both with a small dose of ketamine from my med kit, kept for emergencies. Enough to knock them out without stopping their hearts. I left them cuffed to the support beam, vented the space to avoid buildup, and locked the door behind me. When I stepped back into the house, the smell of burning wax hit me. Alyssa stood by the fireplace, glass of red wine in one hand, the flame flickering across her face. She didn't look scared. She looked amused. "What have you done?" she asked softly. I holstered my weapon and stepped toward her. Exactly what I was trained for. She didn't scream when I cuffed her to the chair, didn't struggle, didn't even flinch. Alyssa, no, Rachel, just sat there in her silk robe, legs crossed, that wine glass still perfectly balanced in one hand, like none of this was new to her. The woman I married, the woman I let into my life, was gone, and in her place sat someone cold, composed, and infuriatingly calm. "You always were efficient," she said softly. I didn't answer, just walked around her slowly, making sure the restraints held. Heavy-duty flex cuffs secured her wrists behind the chair, ankles wrapped tight with reinforced zip ties to the legs. I left just enough slack to keep her circulation, but not her balance. She didn't try to test them. That was the first confirmation. This wasn't her first rodeo. "Say it," I said, voice flat. She tilted her head. "Say what?" "Your name?" She sipped her wine. "Rachel Vexler." I felt it hit my chest like a punch. I'd heard the name before, twice years ago, in classified briefings. Operated in black market intel circles. Brokered arms for data. Never caught, never named. Ghost status. "You were never random," I said. "No." "So what was the op? Honey trap? Long-term infiltration?" She finally looked up at me then, eyes tired, like we were talking about a business deal gone bad. "They tagged you after Marrakesh, after you buried that field kit and never realized what was inside it." I blinked. "I never opened that gear. We lost Colburn on the extract. That whole thing went dark." She nodded. "That's why they picked you. You didn't even know you were sitting on millions in black file intelligence. Satellite keys, deep asset lists, and a full burn log from a Saudi contractor. It was supposed to be extracted the night you got back. But you vanished, took early retirement, changed your name, no warning. They thought I ghosted with it." She gave a small shrug. "Didn't you?" I stared at her. She didn't break eye contact. "They sent me in to find it, gain trust, extract, then disappear." "And instead," I said, pacing, "you stayed. You married me, played the long con. It wasn't all fake." That stopped me. "It started that way, yeah," she continued. "The first few months were surveillance, planting trackers, cataloging your storage spaces. You were always so damn locked down. I told them it'd take time." I moved to the mantel, stared at the family photo we took on our second anniversary, my arm around her shoulders, her smile so natural it made my stomach twist now. "But time changed things?" I asked, bitterness cutting through. "You developed a conscience?" "No," she said, and for the first time, there was something fragile in her voice. "I developed feelings." I turned. "I fell for you, Jake. That wasn't part of the plan. I wanted to believe it. I wanted so badly to believe it, that some part of what we had was real. But I couldn't. Not after 10 bodies on my floors and a whisper into a burner phone meant to end my life. I walked over, crouched in front of her, and stared into those eyes. "Would you have gone through with it?" I asked. "If I hadn't heard you tonight, would you have let them kill me?" She looked away, and that was answer enough. I stood, reached into the side drawer, and pulled out the emergency sat phone I kept stashed in a lead-lined pouch, punched in a sequence of numbers from memory. Old habits. A soft click answered after 3 rings, a filtered voice, older, strained. I spoke without hesitation. The raven circled twice. "I need extraction." There was a pause. Then the voice, gruffer now. "Mercer. Jesus, you're not supposed to exist." "Well, I do," I said, "and I've got a compromised operator, a black file target, and enough spilled blood to reopen some very old wounds." Another pause. "Location?" I gave him the short code, a 4-digit ping that translated to my neighborhood. "Secure? Neutralized? For now?" Then the voice said something that chilled me more than anything I'd heard that night. "You need to run. There's more coming. She wasn't the only one they sent." I hung up without another word. The storm wasn't over. I turned back to her. Her face had lost that practiced calm. She looked human now, scared. Not of what I'd do, but of what would happen if they found her alive. "You don't get to play victim," I said. "You brought this here." "I didn't ask them to kill you." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You just lit the match. The fire doesn't care whose house it burns." She started to speak, but I turned away, pulled the blinds, checked the camera feed. Empty, for now. I reset the panic room fail-safes and sent a coded signal through the jamming rig. A low-wave burst only 2 living people in the world could decrypt. Backup would come, or it wouldn't. Either way, I wasn't waiting to be buried. As I turned the lights down, Rachel whispered behind me, "What are you going to do with me?" I paused in the doorway. "Whatever it takes," I said, "and not a damn thing more." I didn't sleep for the next 48 hours. Sleep was a liability now. So was trust. The safe house was in the Shenandoah backcountry, a stone cabin built into the hillside, reinforced during a contract job I did for a paranoid oil exec who thought the Russians were after him. It was never logged, never listed, completely off-grid, just the way I needed it. Rachel, still going by Alyssa in my head, though the name felt like poison, was cuffed to a bolted chair in the far corner, wrapped in a wool blanket. I kept her sedated on a staggered dose, enough to keep her lucid but not clever. I needed answers, not another betrayal. The Marrakesh flash drive sat in front of me on the reinforced table, pulsing faint blue inside the decryption shell I'd designed years ago. It was encoded with a rotating key that required both fingerprint and breath signature to unlock. Mine. A dead asset had given it to me in the chaos of an evac, wrapped in torn fabric, bleeding from his gut, whispering, "Keep this away from fire and friends." I never looked, just buried it in my kit and forgot. Now, I watched line after line of encrypted data unravel, rogue satellite protocols, proxy shell companies, names, real ones, linked to accounts in Singapore, Zurich, the Caymans. Dossiers tagged to international arms shipments routed through diplomatic channels. And a name I hadn't heard in over a decade, Anton Rezakov. The man was a ghost, no confirmed photo, operated in the spaces between governments, between wars. And somehow, this drive mapped his network like a damn family tree. I was never meant to know. I was never meant to survive. The pieces clicked. They didn't just want the drive, they wanted to erase it, erase me, clean the ledger. I heard the rustle behind me. She was awake. "I need water," she said hoarsely. I got up, handed her a steel bottle, and stayed silent while she drank. When she was done, she looked at me like someone watching a funeral procession. "You cracked it," she said. I nodded. Her eyes didn't flinch. "You know now. That's why they're still coming." "No," I said, sitting again. "They were always coming. I just didn't realize why." She leaned back, wincing. "You were never the target, not directly." I turned toward her. "You were the courier," she said. "That's it. The field agent who wasn't supposed to survive the extraction. You weren't worth tracking until you disappeared off their grid. And the asset who handed you that drive bled out before confirming delivery." "So they buried it," I muttered, and waited until 2 years ago when a flagged transaction came from an old SEAL support account and pinged an IP near Arlington. You moved, you resurfaced, quiet, but not invisible. I stood, pacing. "You could have told me." "I wasn't allowed to, and I didn't want to." "Why?" "Because by the time I knew you weren't lying, I wasn't lying either." I didn't respond. My hands curled into fists at my sides. She swallowed. "The men who came for you weren't just mercenaries. They were ghost assets, burned IDs, no official record. Rezakov doesn't hire amateurs." I narrowed my eyes. "You said they sent you." She hesitated. "Rachel," I said quietly. "Who is they?" She looked away. "I worked for someone who works for someone," she said finally. "No one sees the top of the ladder. But whoever gave the kill order, they're inside, deep. I think they knew what was on that drive long before you did. I think some of it implicates them directly." My heart thudded slow and deliberate. I knew what I had to do. "You're planning something," she said, watching me. I walked to the far cabinet, unlocked the weapons crate, pulled out a suppressed AR, 3 mags, and a burner tablet. "You wanted to see who I really am?" I said, sliding the bolt back. "Watch closely." She watched as I dialed a number burned into my brain. A tone clicked. "Who is this?" a voice rasped. "Breaker," I said. "I need a door." There was a pause. "Jake? Hell, man. You still breathing?" "Yeah, but barely. I've got something that needs sunlight." "What kind?" "Level 9, Marrakesh level, maybe deeper." "Where?" I gave him the coordinates, the old industrial compound outside DC, the one with the severed power grid and the busted comms tower. "Jesus," he muttered. "You planning to light the match?" I looked over at Rachel. Her eyes were locked on mine. "I'm not just lighting it," I said. "I'm burning it down." He exhaled. "All right, 4 hours, but you better bring something real." I hung up. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about exposure, about taking the truth and jamming it into the light where it couldn't be scrubbed. I walked over to Rachel, crouched, and cut the cuffs from her wrists. She blinked, stunned. "You're letting me go?" "No," I said. "You're coming with me." She looked confused. "Because if I'm walking into hell," I said, "you're walking in first." The air inside the compound was the kind you feel before a storm, charged, dry, expectant. I moved like I'd never left the field. Old reflexes didn't die, they just waited. My boots barely made a sound on the cracked concrete floor. The lights flickered low, emergency red bleeding across walls lined with expired tech and expired men. Breaker had come through. Back door entry. Security camera loops frozen. Internal sensors looped. I had 20 minutes before someone noticed the heartbeat on the monitor didn't belong. I carried the drive in a magnetic-lined pouch taped to my chest, just beneath the body armor. The rifle felt light, my sidearm even lighter. I wasn't here for a fair fight. I was here to end things. Rachel was cuffed and gagged, strapped in the back of a transport van I'd parked a mile out. I left her with water and enough sedation to keep her docile. She wouldn't die. She just wouldn't interfere. The first guard turned the corner near the west stairwell. I dropped him before he could blink, single suppressed, round to the neck. His radio clicked once before I killed the signal. I dragged him into a side closet, kept moving. No hesitation, no remorse. Second target was smarter, heard something, raised his weapon. Didn't matter. I was faster. I moved through the corridors like I was back in Mosul, room to room, angle to angle. I knew their structure before they did. Their patterns were textbook. That's what happens when a network goes arrogant. They copy and paste their OPSEC. 2 techs sat in the second-floor data chamber, lit by half a dozen monitors. One of them looked up, mouth open to speak. He didn't finish. I dragged one to the wall, pressed my blade to his cheek. "How many handlers on site?" "3, he choked. "Downstairs, command level, plus field runners, maybe 6 more." I nodded and silenced him. The deeper I went, the darker it got, both literally and otherwise. I passed crates marked with NGO emblems filled with weapons, satellite uplinks wired into old Red Cross terminals. The kind of things that don't just disappear, they're erased. This was no hub. It was a damn nerve center, a factory for blackmail and betrayal. The server room was behind a biometric gate. Breaker had sent me a bypass code burned into the edge of a folded dollar bill. I keyed it in. The door hissed. I stepped into a hum of soft fans and blinking lights. Racks of drives stood like gravestones, each humming with secrets meant to die in the dark. But not today. I pulled the pouch from my chest, slotted the drive into the upload port I'd jury-rigged the night before. My tablet blinked once, then again. Files flooding out into an offshore channel I'd created under a dead journalist's name. An automated script engaged. Backups, mirrors, drops. Failsafe broadcast initiated. External cache verification. Live. A prompt appeared. Add final message. I typed fast. "If you're seeing this, I'm already dead. Or worse, pissed. Signed, Jake Mercer." I hit send. Then I pulled the thermite charge from my vest, placed it on the central rack, and twisted the fuse cap. It hissed, angry and white-hot, sparking like a warning. I turned, rifle up. 2 men rushed in, too late. The first dropped before he cleared the threshold. The second clipped my shoulder with a lucky round. I returned the favor with 3 in his chest. The flames behind me caught fast, crackling through insulation and drive casings like dry paper. I moved toward the exit, clutching my side, bleeding but stable. The smoke rolled up the stairwell as I climbed. A firestorm chasing ghosts. Outside, the private chopper breaker arranged waited at the clearing. Its blades beat the air slow and heavy, like a warning drum. I climbed aboard, but not before tossing the phone they had used to track me into the flames licking out the broken door. Inside the chopper, the pilot glanced back. "All done?" I nodded once. "No survivors." We lifted, but I wasn't done yet. I had one more stop. A mile out, we touched down at a remote ranger station I'd used before. Off-grid, no cell signal, no traffic. Just wind, rust, and silence. Rachel was awake. I opened the van. She blinked against the light, mouth dry, eyes haunted. "You were good," I told her, "but not good enough." I set down a bottle of water and a satellite beacon. "Here's the deal. Push that button, a ranger patrol finds you. You talk, maybe you live. You run, you disappear. Your choice." She opened her mouth. I didn't wait. I turned, climbed back into the chopper, and lifted off before she could say anything. 15 minutes later, I was alone on a rocky coastline. Just me, the wind, and a burner phone. I waited, then ping. "Data received. Your name's clean. They're gone." I stared at the screen for a long second. Then I deleted the message, crushed the phone under my boot. No more echoes, no more ghosts. I stood there, watching the sun slide behind the waterline, the tide licking at my boots. The pain in my shoulder throbbed in rhythm with my breath. She brought 10 men to end me. I buried 10 names, and the past with them.